I gave you a little background of who I am and how long I've been involved in marketing and business development, and I shared with you a couple of my experience stories. That, if you think about it, that is what we call traditional marketing. Traditional marketing will cover some of these basic fundamental things. Would have been things like what I've done in the past. I actually bought advertisement in the yellow pages. For those of you who don't remember or don't know what the yellow pages are, or the phone book, right? It was actually a big book, maybe about 3 inches thick in some areas, and it had listings of the businesses. And it's funny because it went in alphabetical order, so most businesses tried to name themselves like AA Plumbing or Triple A Plumbing or AAA Plumbing, because if you named yourself with an A, you got first dibs in the phone book because it was in alphabetical order, or you tried to name yourself accordingly. And you had to pay. The first line was free if you had a phone, and you had to pay for a display ad and things of that nature. And that was a display ad could have cost you back then. I remember $200, $300, $400, $500 in an ad in a phone book. And then you had different zip codes and regions. So if you really wanted to be, if let's say you're in the tri-state area up in New York, Connecticut, Jersey, and in the New York area, the 5 boroughs, you had to buy those zip codes. You had to buy those books in all those areas. It could be pretty pricey for a small business. That's traditional marketing. Traditional marketing is what we call touch points. When a consumer sees you, they remember you. That's branding and touch points and things of that nature. So everywhere a consumer looks, they could find you. And traditionally, we've done that through TV, through radio, through the newspaper, which newspapers are not really out there as much anymore. Periodicals, publications. We did that through what we call out-of-home advertising on billboards and on park benches and postcards and door knockers and all kinds of these material things that would help us, these what we call marketing assets that will help us get that word out. Of course, today, TV, streaming TV, and radio is still very viable. In fact, we call it now snail mail, right? That's traditional mail postage. That actually, over the pandemic, has driven some results. It was diving down, but I guess because we were all home, we had more time to look at our junk mail, and that actually took a nice spike in reception and productivity in terms of return on investment during the pandemic. So that's really traditional marketing, right? If you had a business, you had to do like the local newspaper, if you had a local restaurant or something like that. Okay, and then in 94, 95, 96, in the late 90s, early 2000s, this thing called the World Wide Web came out and started, and we had, if you remember, we had email marketing, we had banner ads, we had pop-ups, we had blogs, we had all kinds of different ways to get the message out, and this whole digital marketing opportunity became what it is back then. And as it grew, it took on a whole new world. And I like to now say that there's no longer a separation between digital and traditional marketing. I'm just calling it marketing. And I'll tell you why I believe that, and I think you would agree with me. Unfortunately, we experienced this pandemic, and during this pandemic, we only had the internet. We only had online. I can't imagine how we would all be feeling right now if this pandemic hit us in the mid-90s rather than 2021 or 2020, right? No internet. Could you imagine how difficult that must have been for those who had the original Spanish flu? Of course, they had a different world altogether, but they had no internet. At least we had some connectivity. We could still, for those businesses that were able to, and I'm going to use the word pivot. because everyone uses that word now. It's overused, in my opinion. But if they made that pivot to online, they were able to keep their business alive. If they were not able to make that change online, they were suffering. And I'm talking about restaurants, I'm talking about doctors' offices, I'm talking about even daycare centers, which, took care of kids physically, needed to move online somehow, some way, some shape, some form. And if they couldn't do that, they couldn't survive, or they probably didn't get through this pandemic healthy. So no longer can we say the traditional marketing and the digital marketing are two separate things. It's all in one. So if you're marketing a company, if you're marketing a product, if you're marketing a service, you have to do it all. You have to do the digital, do the traditional. It's a blended approach now. In fact, I specialize in what we call Omnichannel marketing, which is where you would order something online and maybe pick it up in the store, and you have multiple options now. I just heard the stats. I think it was $900 billion in e-commerce, and grocery sales, which is one of my key industries. Grocery sales have been off the charts. Costco reported a 75% increase in their online sales. So people now are buying their groceries online. And I could tell you, I remember being on a team that dealt with Walmart, and we had a discussion with some industry leaders how they could maximize the online opportunity. And this could have been back in the early 2010s, let's say. And they were trying to figure out a way to get more people to spend more money on groceries. Now they don't have to. Everything's happening online. So marketing today is a combination of all those things, but you cannot be successful unless you're doing a strong online marketing campaign. So let's talk about marketing now that we know it's a combination of art and science, right? So when we think about marketing, there's two pieces in our heads that we have to manage. We know about the art piece. Those of us who know about marketing understand that marketing is about creativity and creating ads, and now we do videos and blog posts and content, we call it, right? So you have to have some artistic ability to do that. You have to be creative in some way, shape, or form when you think about marketing. But there's always been a science part of that, the analytical piece of marketing. So the science part is understanding the metrics, understanding the analytics, and just comparing, my marketing journey from early on to now. I mentioned the ads you would put in periodicals and publications and things of that nature. So let's say if you did a home and garden type magazine, and they might have 5 regional magazines, 5 regional publications. They might have a Northeast, a Southeast, a Midwest, a West Coast, and you took out an ad. You could take out an ad in each region. You would measure your sales spike based in that region when that ad dropped, and you would assume as a marketer that, well, the salespeople really didn't increase sales. It was the marketing that we did that increased sales. And that would sometimes be an okay assumption. But then every once in a while you might do an FSI drop or a coupon drop, let's say, where someone has to cut a coupon out and it gets redeemed in the store. And redemption rate is 1 or 2%, so it's really not that high. And then you could measure the physical redemptions that came in and say, okay, well, that ad actually drove some sales because I see the redemptions for those coupons. Well, it was tough. And every once in a while I would have the vice president of the division would say, okay, Ken, we did some marketing. What's the results? And it would be hard to draw a direct line from my spend to the results, because the spend sort of did all kinds of curvy things, and the results did all kinds of curvy things, and I had no direct line. That's the science part of it. But now, because we're in the analytical world and we have this incredible data, we can actually see in real time, if we wanted to, what our email marketing campaign does. We can actually see who opens the email, who clicks on the link, who makes a purchase. Instantaneously, while it's happening, I can watch them live on the screen as they're taking their journey through my website. You couldn't do that pre-internet days, right? So you need a good balance of art and science in marketing. So don't worry about it if you're not really great at art, and don't worry about it if you're not really great at science. We're going to get you better in science if that's not your strong suit. We're going to get you a little better in art if that's not your strong suit. You don't have to be, expert in both or either one. You just have to know what you need to do, and then there's always the opportunity to work with someone or hire someone that could be better for you, right? Okay, so let's cover some basic marketing fundamentals first before we dive into some of this digital stuff. So if we remember our marketing days, those of us that might have taken a marketing class, we know there is the marketing mix. The marketing mix are also known as the 4 Ps. That's product, place, promotion, and price. So everything starts with product. You have to have a product. And when I say product for our discussions, it could also be a service, right? It could also be a company if you're trying to brand the company. It could be an individual because you could brand and promote an individual as well, right? And what we want to do is make sure that that product is really solving a problem and filling a need. That's really the fundamental goal of any marketer. You see a need out there and you fill it. And if you could fill that need, you're going to sell something because that need, that gap that you have out there is being filled. Or you're solving a problem. And that's important. So product is really where this whole journey starts, and this whole opportunity of becoming a strong digital marketer starts. So we will explore this a little more, but we really have to understand the product. One important concept to think about with product is to make sure that we're different in some way. We have some differentiation. There's a lot of Me Too items online right now, and there's thousands of them going on every second. In fact, you can go on Amazon and punch in any product you're thinking of, and you see 45 suppliers of that particular product, unless of course it's unique and different and controlled, then you won't see that. And that product is probably more successful in terms of margin and profits and availability than all the other Me Too items. So when you think about a product, or again a service or a company or some type of branding opportunity, you want to make sure that you're unique and different. And we'll talk more here about what we call a USP, a unique selling proposition, or even a UVP, some of us call it, which is a unique value proposition. Okay. The next P is place. Now, place is the distribution of our product. In this case, we could have place be a retail store and an online channel. So you can have Amazon and you can have your retail store. Or you can have Amazon, you can have your own website and your retail store. So you can have this omni-channel approach, or just a single channel approach. You could just sell on Etsy. There are multi-million-dollar opportunities now on Etsy and on eBay and on Amazon. So you can have one channel and be successful there. Or you could sell your product in just retail and be successful there too. Now that's changed the last 14 months, right? You can no longer stand alone and have a standalone retail shop. We know that's true now because of what happened with the pandemic. Everyone is shopping online, and if you have a brick and mortar, we used to call them, if we have a retail shop, you need to have an online presence, and that's really important. I think it's interesting that I've done some seminars for small businesses and commissions and chambers and things of that nature, and I used to cite a statistic that the small business Association had that nearly 40% of all small businesses didn't have a website, a strong website to go along with their brick and mortar store might be, which of course, if they didn't have it when the pandemic hit, they probably didn't get through that because no one was around shopping. So that's important. You have to make sure you understand the channels and understand the place. The promotion in the marketing mix is how we get our word out, what we do for the online presence. And we'll talk about content. We'll talk about ads. We'll talk about different things that we could do to help promote our product, our business, and our service. The last P there is price. Now, I put that last in the 4 Ps because in my mind, I think price is one of the most important, if not the most important P on this list. Now, all of them are important, of course, but imagine these 4 Ps. If you could close your eyes for a second and try to imagine dials, like those type of dials, those metal dials that you would see on a garden hose type of thing. And you have 4 dials there, and you have a dial for product, a dial for place, a dial for promotion. Now the dial for price is bigger than the other 3, and it's also red, right? So in your head and in your eyes, you'll say, okay, that's a red dial. Something is important about that dial. I got to be careful. And price is important that way because if you think about it, if your price is too high, then you're not going to sell the product. If your price is too low, you might sell the product, but you might not have enough money to cover your expenses and not be profitable. And there's a fine tuning that you have to apply there to price. So that's why I think it's pretty important. And as part of our development, when we create our strategy, and when we review this, we have to understand price. Now, one thing I want to touch on here with price is something what we call the 3 C's, the 3 C's of price. So the first C of price would be your COGS. That's COGS. COGS. That's cost of goods sold. That's COGS. So basically, you need to understand what something cost you, right, to be put together and delivered and get ready for shipment before you could put a retail price on it. Because if something costs you 50 cents, you need to sell it probably for $2, right? At least a 4x of what it cost you. By the time you get done with all the additional cost involved, you need to be able to make some money. So you need to understand your cost of goods sold. That's the first C. Okay. The second C is competition. I would love to say that we are on our own, that there's no competition out there. We know that's not true at all. No matter how unique our product is, even if it's very unique, there's some type of competition out there. It might not be a like competitive item. It might be a substitute item, but there are items out there that someone could spend their money on instead of your item, and there are companies out there that could outmarket you and outmaneuver you. So you have to think about the competition, because if you say that your price is $1 for something and you ignore the competition could have a better product and could be selling it for 90 cents, you'll never break through. You'll never be able to break into that market. So you have to think about the competition when it comes to price as well. And then that last C is very important. The last C is the consumer. So the consumer will immediately tell you if your price is right or wrong. Now, you'll hear me say over and over again over the next few weeks that in marketing, I really don't think there's a right and wrong. I mean, there's best practices, there's things that you should do and things you definitely shouldn't do when it comes to marketing. But it's really an exercise in understanding what you need to do and going out there and presenting it to the market. And the only way you know if you're successful is if you start selling things, right? You start generating revenue and getting conversion. That's how you know some of the marketing you're doing is working, because you get the dollar. The green dollar tells you, hey, whatever you did, it worked because we've got dollars in our pockets. Now, we'll talk about that a little more over the next few weeks, but the consumer, if they don't spend money, if you don't generate dollars in your pocket, then the price, your whole marketing could be wrong, but your price needs to be tied into that. So the consumer will tell you immediately if your price is too high or if your price is too low, and that will be one result of your revenue not being created. So the 4 P's are product, place, promotion, and price. We need to understand that because we have to factor all this into our thinking when we create our strategy, our marketing strategy, and our digital marketing presence. So let's cover now the piece of digital marketing strategy. Now, we all know what digital marketing strategy is. We are consumers of digital marketing. We know what it does. It uses the internet to market a brand, a product, a service, or a website. We use social media. We use SEO, which is search engine optimization. We'll cover these terms over the next few weeks, but that's basically what you want to build. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to create a love story. So I want to talk to you here a moment about creating a love story. And what exactly does that look like? And what does that feel like? So we know that marketing is art and science, and we put those things together with the 4 P's that we talked about, and we create that target market. We create that persona, that avatar to go after. Okay, so now we build this relationship. We have to begin the relationship. Every love story starts with, hey, my name is Ken. It's great to meet you, that type of thing, right? You have to break the ice. You have to get to know someone first. And what I'm talking about here, and you can do that online, you could do that through your website, through your social media, through your content. It's not just thumbs up. It's not just likes. It's more like falling in love, because we want to take that consumer from just getting to know us to falling in love with us. Because if they fall in love with us, then they will not leave us, or it'll be a little harder for them to leave you, right? I mean, that's my goal here. I'm married 23, this will be 24 years, and I want to keep my wife in love with me so that she stays with me. And if we fall out of love, then who knows what happens after that? Well, it's the same thing with a consumer. Once you break that love, they move on. And there's a lot of reasons why that love can be broken, but you want the consumer to fall in love with you. Why? Because if a customer falls in love with you, you create something which we call customer lifetime value. Now, customer lifetime value is important to a brand, to a company. Why? Because it generates revenue for a long period of time. So briefly, I'll explain this. We'll cover this some more in detail, but customer lifetime value basically means that a customer will be along with you and spend money with you over the course of a period of years. It might not be an actual lifetime, but it'll be a period of years, consecutive years, let's say. And that builds up the business. That builds up the brand. Let's think about this in terms of us as consumers. Most of us have an Apple product, or if we don't have an Apple product, we might have the competitive product, the Samsung, okay? But I'll use Apple as an example. If you bought Apple and the iPhone's only, 12 years old, 13 years old, so it's pretty young if you think about it, you more than likely are going to buy another Apple product again, whether it be the iPad, the watch, or whatever it is. My house is fully Apple wired, so you could thank my family for that. I'm not a big Apple fan, but I carry around an iPhone, of course. But we will buy an Apple product again. And now we're on, I think I have an iPhone 10 or 9. I'm not quite sure. It might be a 10. I think they're up to 12 now, right? And I've had 3 iPhones. So if you do the math, that's probably one every 4 years. And everybody in my family changes the phone at the same time. So the whole family, there's 5 of us, gets a new iPhone every 4 years, 3 years. My older daughter might do it a little faster than us. But so now if you think about that, if we always buy iPhones for the rest of our life, now my kids are in their late teens, early 20s, my oldest daughter's in her 30s, if they continue to buy Apple products, providing Apple's still around for the next 30, 40, 50 years, they have a lifetime customer that will spend, if you break that math up, $100 a year, $200 a year. Now, it doesn't mean a lot if one family does that, but Apple has millions of families doing that, and that's why they're such a large company, one of the largest on planet Earth, right? Think of that in terms of Amazon. If I can ask you to raise your hand, if I can see you, how many of us have an Amazon Prime subscription? Well, most of us do, and I just happened to see our account. Yeah, thanks, Troy. Exactly. I just happened to see our account the other day. It's actually my wife manages that account. I'm only privileged to go on there every once in a while. But I happened to see we signed up back in 14 years ago or 13 years ago or something like that. And I was like, wow, I didn't know Prime was around that long, and it has been around for about 14, 15 years. And we've been giving them $10 a month, or whatever the price is now. It might be $15 a month for the last 15 years. It adds up. It adds up. So that's what customer lifetime value is. And Adam, I don't mean to compete against Untuck, but I do have a couple of your products. But I tell this story when I talk about business shirts, because I came across a business shirt about 20 years ago. It was the Joseph A. Bank Traveler Collection shirt. I used to travel. I was on a plane more or less every Sunday and back home Thursday night. So I was always
the wrinkle free.
Yeah, exactly right. So you know the product. Anyway, I lived out of a suitcase for a majority of the year. And you don't want to get into a business meeting or meet a client with a wrinkled shirt, and ironing in the hotel room is horrible and blah, blah, blah. So I came across this shirt. I think I got it as a gift or something like that. The Travel Collection from Joseph A. Bank. They're wrinkle-free. You can literally take it out of the suitcase. I just steam it in the shower. When I'm taking a shower, the thing looks like it was pressed 100%. So I've been buying, and those shirts, they run about $99 every day. They put a sale on once in a while, 3 for $99. They have a crazy sale sometimes, 2 for $99. I bulk up, so I probably buy 6 or 8 shirts, and I rotate them into my wardrobe. So I probably spend $500 a year with them. I've been doing that for the last 20 years. It's the only shirt outside of the couple casual shirts I have, which include the 2 Untucks. It's the only business shirt that I have in my closet. As long as I'm alive, I'll buy this shirt, as long as they're in business. They're suffering right now. They closed a bunch of shops down, so who knows what the future holds. But that's customer lifetime value. And if you think about this customer journey, and we'll talk about this here in a few minutes, the first part of that journey is awareness. Then we get them to consider us, and then we get conversion. So we get them to spend money with us. And then the next step after they spend some money with us is to retain them, to get them to buy again and again and again. That's when our business starts to build. And then we get them to become a brand champion, a brand advocate. So now they tell everybody about how great the brand is and how great the product is, just like I'm telling you now how great this shirt is for me. So that's our goal. We build a love story. We have our customers fall in love with us, give them a reason to stay with us, and build this customer lifetime value. And that's sort of what I do right now is I help my clients get the customers, find them, keep them, and grow them. And there's actually a little formula. We're not going to do a lot of math right now, but we will do some metrics math in the next few weeks. But there actually is a formula to figure out how long we can keep a customer and what their average value is to us, because that's important to us as a marketer, okay? So if you think about this in terms of this love story, we know that at the end of the process and at the beginning of the process, it's all about us as a marketer satisfying needs and wants. We have to drive value for the customer at a profit. That's our goal. If the customer believes that they're not getting a value, if they believe they're not getting their needs and their wants and their problems solved, then they won't fall in love with you, and they won't buy again. And that customer journey sort of gets interrupted in the middle. Okay, so the journey from a customer's point of view starts with awareness. So the first step in our goal to reach out to our customer is to get them to be aware of who we are. Then we want them to consider what we have to offer. Hey, I'm Professor Ken. I do digital marketing. I could solve your business problem, and I have a wonderful strategy to help you get customers, keep customers, and grow your business. Here's some of my data. Why don't you learn a little bit more about me? Okay, Professor Ken, that sounds pretty good. Let me see what you got, and let me take a look at some of your information, your case studies, and I start considering Professor Ken's digital marketing opportunities. And then I have a project now. I need someone to help me with my digital marketing. Well, I got to know Professor Ken a little bit as a consumer, and I'm sort of still considering him. But then he sent me a couple emails over the last couple of weeks reminding me of how he can help build my business. So I'm going to give him a shot, because I think he checks off all the boxes and he will help me solve my problem. So I convert that customer. So now I took that customer through that journey. I had them become aware of who I am. I had them consider what I have to offer. I had them convert and give me their business. Now I deliver. And when I talk about delivering, I do service, and I'm a results-driven service business. So I deliver results. They're happy. If they're happy, guess what? I get another project. So now I retain them. If this was a product, you would get happy when the product comes in, and we'll talk about that here in a couple minutes when we get back, what happens in the minds of a consumer. And then I retain them. So now they become a client of mine. So now I have project 1, project 2, 3, 4, 5. Hopefully I get a project every 4 to 8 weeks, and I retain them. And I pick them up in 2020, and I have them for 2021, and I have them for 2022. They do a video testimonial for me. They tell their other business peers about me, and they become a brand champion for me. And that's really the journey of a consumer, and what that consumer does to help us build our business. And it all starts with me getting them aware of who I am and what I do. And I have to start that relationship, because in order for them to fall in love with me, in order for them to give me a raving review, in order for them to be a brand champion of mine, they have to fall in love with me. They have to believe in what I do and how I help them, and they have to see the results, and they have to make sure that all the boxes are checked for them, and they're willing to come back and do more business with me. If I do that right the first couple of times, and I keep them and they come back in year 1, year 2, year 3, I start building a business. I start generating customer lifetime value, and they fall in love with me, and that relationship blossoms into something that's profitable for me. It's also profitable for the consumer, because they found someone to solve their problem and to fill their need, and they're happy and they're satisfied, and it's one less thing they have to think about them, right? I have 99 problems, but this product is not one of them, that type of thing. So that's the idea of a consumer journey, and how we have to help them fall in love with us. That's really our goal.